Soccer and racism. You probably like one of these words, but you shouldn't like both. When researching the topic of racism and xenophobia in Spain's top soccer league, I conducted a survey where the majority of people, who don't even watch soccer, came to the agreement that Spain is the most racist country in Europe, based on their perception, of course. Even with this perception, 68% of the 51 people I surveyed said that soccer was an inclusive sport. There is an obvious conflict in people's perception in soccer, and there is a need for more information about soccer and racism. Therefore, I'm set to explain why Spain is so racist. So without further ado, not to be mistaken with Freddie Adu, former professional soccer wonder kid, who's now 36, let's discuss what is and what led to the instrumental and impulsive racism that has taken over Spain's top two soccer divisions. Before tackling the concept of modern-day racism in Spain, I believe it's important we discuss what types of racism are involved and how they presented themselves in past and present. The two major types of racism are the first type, instrumental racism, which can be thought of as someone being hypocritical. This type of racism involves someone saying a racist chant or taunt to a player on the opposing team, but are accepting of another player as long as they're playing on the team they are supporting. The second type, impulsive racism, involves the insecurity and frustrations that people have against a different race, believing that this race is changing the identity or culture of a country. This usually results from a lack of understanding or a lack of knowledge of that given race or culture. Now, with that explained, let's talk about the history of La Liga, and instead of you actually talking, you listen and I can pretend I can hear you. La Liga was first created in 1929 and had a strict ban on foreign players. The only somewhat foreign players that could actually join were people of Arriando status. These were individuals whose ancestors immigrated to a different country, but were originally from Spain. Notably, there was no major reports of racism within the first decades of the La Liga. I wonder why. Well, this all ended in 1951, when the first major incident was publicly reported. This incident happened to Moroccan soccer player Larbi Ben Barek, who played on Atletico de Madrid. During a title race against Sevilla, another soccer club, it was reported that the opposing fans were saying racist chants towards the player. This incident marks the beginning of instrumental racism in Spain. During the 70s, there was a notable increase in foreign players. This might have been influenced by the 1972 decision, which lifted the total ban of foreign players. There was especially an increase in players from South American countries. The increase of foreign players coincided with the increase of racist incidents during the 80s. This increase of racist incidents might have also been influenced by the popularization of radicalized soccer groups called ultras. Many ultras incorporated far-left or right-leaning ideologies, with some following neo-Nazi ideology. These ultra groups were not limited to just Spain and were seen across Europe in countries like Italy and England, showing the influence and spread of racism across Europe. During the 90s, racism in Spain started to become a common occurrence. A notable incident occurred in 1992 when Valencia CF supporters displayed Nazi imagery during a game. However, what most likely contributed to the increase in racism was the flow in immigration to Spain. The Bosman ruling in 1995 removed the transfer fee from players when their contract finished. This led to the increase of foreign players transferring from different countries around the world. The most notable years during this time were between 1996 to 97. During this time, it marked the first time that the flow of immigration was higher than immigration. During the 1996 to 97 season of soccer, there were about 150 foreign players from 35 different countries. With this change, it brought insecurity, and with this insecurity, it brought the eventual impulsive racism that we see now in Spain. The 2000s marked a new era of media coverage. With this media coverage, the amount of racist incidents covered by the media was abundant. Two notable incidents during this time happened first in 2004 when the Spain's national team coach tried encouraging another player by insulting his black teammate who was representing a different country. The other incident happened in 2006 when a player named Samuel Eto'o, who was playing for Barcelona at the time, walked off the pitch after being insulted with racist taunts by the opposing team. These incidents were the climax of racism during this time, as well as the first time we saw the combination of the two major types of racisms I've discussed, through media. This racist abuse all culminated into the implementation of the 2007 law called the Law Against Violence, Racism, Xenophobia, and Intolerance in Sports. This law created a harsher punishment for individuals who participated in racist, discriminatory, or xenophobic acts in soccer. It was intended to help protect victims and punish racism. Although this law was a step forward in the fight against racism, it was not enough. Even with actions taken against racism, it's still persistent in La Liga up to the modern day. Two incidents that people discuss when talking about modern-day racism in La Liga first occurred in 2014 and then 2024. The former happened when Brazilian player Dani Alves was taunted by opposing fans, and then a banana was thrown at him in order to taunt him. To fight against this racism, he decided to take a bite of the banana. The latter happened to Brazilian soccer player Vinicius Jr., in which an effigy was hung of him prior to a game. Now, something interesting about what happened to Vinicius Jr. relates back to the survey I conducted prior to this video. When asked, the majority of people thought the hanging like this would happen in the United States by a group of people. However, only 26% thought it happened in Europe by 2 people. This goes to show the majority of people don't think it's likely for a European country to have such extreme racist actions occurring. When I was trying to find the root causes of racism in Spain, it led me to the idea of the combination of the 2 major types of racism. In this idea, it suggests that now people with similar ideas about immigrants and foreigners in the country and are in similar soccer groups like ultras. They come together during games to perform instrumental and impulsive racism combined, in which people vent their frustrations based on the concepts of race and ethnicity and utter prejudices on players of the opposing team. However, this idea alone does not help solve the key issues behind racism, but only addresses the key problem. However, there are multiple ways of helping these issues, and many of them are being put into action. The first action is at club level, where soccer clubs are actively banning ultras or distancing themselves from radicalized ideas. The second level comes from non-governing bodies like organizations who work in order to reduce racism in soccer. A notable organization is known as Kick It Out, which is based in England and not Spain, but it's still notable nevertheless. The third and final level comes from the governing body themselves. La Liga has been campaigning against racism through the Versus Racism campaign, in which they established the problem of racism and the need to fight against it. Despite this action, there is still need for more. Analysis done by the same organization called Kick It Out established that there was an overall increase in discrimination in the 24-25 soccer season in England. What was most shocking was that there was a 29% increase in discriminatory actions in the youth levels of soccer. When compared to the only 3% increase in pro levels, it shows that the youth levels of soccer is on the rise when it comes to discrimination and is in need of improvement. In order to conclude this one-sided conversation, I want you to think for a second. How racism persists, changes, and evolves into uglier forms. It has no boundaries that it stays in. It looms around in all sports, not just soccer. It's up to us, as the spectators, to do something about it. I hope with the information I've given you, you can be more aware of the current situation of soccer right now. Because if you're living in the United States, this racism will be coming to your soil for the world.
Lo va a celebrar. ¿Cómo te lo va a celebrar?
¡Hijo de puta!